Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. And you know what today is? I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyways because I love it so much because it is Terrific Tuesday. And you know what Terrific Tuesday brings us? It is Share and Care with Sandy. So welcome, everybody, to the Bringing Humanity Together live stream. And yet again, we are here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. This is one under the three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella, where people can discuss topics related to the workplace and humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues that are out there that are facing people today, because I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, every time that we come on here, I truly believe in this. It is our goal, our mission, our purpose, our passion to not only work with both employers and employees to bring humanity back in the workforce, is what we truly believe in it, because we truly stand by humanity each and every day in every way. And as always, we'll be going live, like I said, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Feel free to invite your friends, co-workers, family members, and yes, where's those lady co-workers? Oh, they're right beside you. Hey, that's Sharon Care. Come on, let's go. Time to watch. So please bring them all on board too. And also, we do have the official, I won't call them lazy co-workers, but the best co-workers around that we have, and I'll name a few of them. There's Apple, Cosmo, and many more to come. And I'm going to leave it at that. So we greatly appreciate you guys joining us today. And as you jump on, feel free to comment in the chat, whether to be on our LinkedIn Live, which is my personal page, or on our Facebook business page, or on our YouTube channel. Let us know where you're watching from. And also, if you'd like to put out any comments, show topics that you would like for us to do, or even connect with one of us and have a great and engaging conversation one-on-one, please feel free in the comments to be able to let us know where you're watching from, and we would love to reach out to you. And also, if you'd like to even watch this on the replay, please use the hashtag replay. And again, tell us know where you're from, and we would love to have that opportunity to connect with you. And just to let you guys know, we can have up to 10 people on the live stream at a time. So please be understanding with that, because there might be a lot of people watching and like to be able to get on. So we'll try to get you in and out as quick as possible so you guys can have your voice heard each and every single time you're able to come on. So hello, Carla, and hello, Sandy. How are you doing today?
Hey, Chris.
We're good.
So
we're terrific on this terrific Tuesday.
It is Terrific Tuesday. So how is Cosmo? Is he tuckered out from Halloween on Sunday?
Well, actually, I don't know, because we weren't home for trick or treat. So we didn't have our light on. We went and played golf, and then we went out to eat. So it was intentional, because we didn't want to deal with Cosmo over trick or treat.
I wonder how Apple did for Halloween. That would be kind of interesting.
I think Elisa went out with a friend, and she probably went, because I think she went out for dinner. So they probably left Apple at home. But again,
I did go to yoga, and they had howl, like dog howling Halloween for dogs. And so we do yoga from 10:30 to 11:30 at the brewery, and then the brewery opens up. And so by the time people are coming in, we're having our morning beer. And all these people came in with their dogs. If you follow me on Facebook, I have them on my Facebook feed, of all these dogs up in costumes. They're so cool. So cute.
And I saw the one with Cosmo with his little shirt on. That was cute.
That wasn't Cosmo.
See, Elise also lives in a townhouse complex, and I think that, these trick-or-treaters don't usually come into townhouse complexes. We've never had a trick-or-treater here.
Yeah.
And it's different. I mean, when we were in our houses, people came, but not here. And it's the same thing for Elisa where she lives. So they don't, we have one family in here with kids in the whole complex. And there's 4 stratas in here. There's just one family that have kids. Everybody else is old. Okay. can I say? But it just is.
Well, my dad bought all this trick or treat candy, and of course, he bought the one that he likes. Okay?
Of course.
He didn't have a single trick or treater. He has 75 pieces of Snicker bars, and I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't wanna hear it.
Yeah, well, see, our son this year, normally they do give out candy, but this year they didn't. And he took his younger son out trick-or-treating, and Sam bought a costume in a costume store. And Jack went with a friend. He's 12 now, so they figured that he could go with a friend. And I think Kim stayed home, but they didn't have candy and they didn't turn the lights on. In their neighborhood, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids, because I've been in Toronto for Halloween a couple of times. And usually one of them stays home and hands out the candy. And when Yale and I are there, we go out trick-or-treating with the boys. Yeah. And, it's just, it's fun just because it's kind of interesting. And their neighborhood is all families. So it's, there's tons of kids in the neighborhood, which is nice. And the boys have a wonderful time.
Yeah. We have some neighborhoods near us where a lot of people have golf carts, and they don't live on a golf course, mind you, but like one of the communities, it's about a mile away from, kind of where all the stores are and stuff. That's a golf community, neighborhood. But then there's another neighborhood behind the shops and stuff, and everyone has a golf cart. I mean, my husband was saying, gosh, I wish there were sidewalks down our road. We're like 3 miles from there. And the only thing that's saving me from getting a golf cart is the fact that there's no sidewalks. So, but he's like, yeah, it'd be cool to go down to a Mexican restaurant and ride home in our golf cart. And I'm thinking, yeah, in the middle of winter. Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but they actually have, between all the restaurants and all that kind of stuff, they do a little trick-or-treating. They did something for St. Patrick's Day. They had like a scavenger hunt, and they did something for trick-or-treating because I saw like painted pumpkins and on the bats on the roadways of the shopping centers the other day. But everyone was probably out in their golf carts and stuff. And that's how they trick-or-treat too.
Okay, fair enough.
When we play golf Sunday, we were coming off the 18th green, and where we play is actually in a neighborhood it's a huge neighborhood with a golf course in it. And we came off the 18th hole, and it was like a funeral procession of all these cars. They were all trick-or-treating. I mean, like a traffic jam, and we're like, what the heck is this? And I said, well, hopefully there's not an emergency in this neighborhood, because there's no way the fire department could get down here. And then so we cut across the road and went down the side of a house to get to the parking lot where our car was parked there at the clubhouse. And it was full of people from outside of the neighborhood that had come to trick or treat in the neighborhood. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
What just think, ladies, there's a big, huge community north of me called Sun City Center. And it has its own, basically its own little town, just like Disney has its own town called Celebration. Mm-hmm. You see golf carts everywhere at Sun City Center. They literally go everywhere. Huh. So you will see them go to the restaurants, you'll see them go to the grocery store, and there's some parking lots that have little mini parking spaces for these golf carts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we have a town here south of Atlanta called Sun City Peachtree, or Peachtree City, and a lot of people down there have golf carts. Okay. I don't think that there's a golf course down there per se, but it's a lot of airline pilots and families and things live down there because it's near the airport, and everyone has a golf cart down there.
Huh. Okay.
I'm sure when I move to Florida, I'm going to end up with a golf cart.
Yes, golf carts are easy, and there's some of them now that you can actually drive on the road, and they can give you a little license plate form. You can actually drive along the road. They actually have them in downtown Lakeland here. They cut out like it's you know how they have the old, not old, but the four door John Deere kind of dune buggy kind of things.
Yeah.
They actually have them here in downtown Lakeland because what they use them for is when they do traffic stops for the. We have a place that you do a parking garage, and also you can park around downtown. And whenever they want to be able to check how long you've been there, they take this cart around. They take a chalk, hit your tire with it, and they'll tell you how long you've been there, because they'll come back and say, "Hey, if that chalk hadn't moved, then I'm going to have to give them a fine." So they actually have one of those. They just go all around downtown Lakeland. And that's what they do.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, we have a friend who has, he's got some kind of a condition. So Mark really can't walk anymore. So he has a scooter, and that's how he gets around. Fortunately, the building he lives in, there's an elevator. So he just scoots from his suite into the elevator and goes downstairs, and then he can go outside and he can get around and do things. He lives in Hamilton, Ontario. And unfortunately, his wife passed away a few years ago from cancer. It was very sad because
that's sad.
She used to take care of him. So, when we go out, because he's so shaky, if he's eating something that needs cutting up, I cut it up for him. Well, we kind of got used to it, and but Sharon took care of him for years because he's got cerebral palsy.
Oh, wow.
So he's very shaky, and he needs to be on meds and all this kind of stuff. He was walking, but now he's in his 80s and he's not walking very well anymore. So that's why he has a scooter. But he lives in one of these long-term care homes, and because of COVID, they haven't been able to leave their rooms. So I know they deliver their food to them. But Mark's got a corner suite. He's on a corner, so he's actually got a corner balcony, and he's actually got a nice suite. It has a little kitchenette and a living room and an eating area there, and a bedroom with an ensuite bathroom, and it's actually quite a nice little suite. But I just but his boys both live in Toronto. So they do come down and visit him fairly often, but
he can't leave his room.
No, right now he hasn't been able to leave his room. Well, they've got a lockdown in this place because it's a long-term care place, and they're worried about about COVID and having it spread. So they basically are kind of stuck in their room. Because normally when we go to Toronto to visit Mark and Kim and the boys, we usually borrow a car and go down to Hamilton and visit Mark pretty much every time that we go to Toronto to do that. And he really appreciates that. And so usually we go out for lunch. We take him out of there and we go to the restaurant.
Yeah.
And Sharon's brother still lives in Hamilton. And he also comes and takes Mark out and stuff like that.
So they can go out?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, Carla. The whole thing is strange. But anyway.
I'm sorry. It makes absolutely no sense to me if they can go out.
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand it either. But anyway, that's the way
they have any interaction with the staff? Or they just bring them on?
Mark has a caregiver. And she comes in and she makes breakfast for him so he doesn't have to go downstairs to the restaurant.
But he can't leave. He can only leave when he's leaving the building.
Yes. And she does his laundry for him, and and because he's so shaky, he can't dial the phone. So if he wants to call somebody, she usually dials it for him. Or even with the buttons. He's got a computer, but it's driven by voice commands, so he can actually talk to its computer.
Oh, okay. So he doesn't have to type.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Well,
I'm glad he gets to get out.
Yeah, well, he does.
He can't socialize with anybody else there.
Well, it's it just is the way it is right now, and it is most unfortunate. But hopefully things will change and get better soon. We'll see. It's hard to know.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Well, I don't think this is going away anytime soon. And what I think,
No, I know, but I just don't. I'm just like confused with the entire logic of it all.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I also,
conversation.
think what's going to happen is like we get our flu shots every year. I think we might have to boosters for this darn thing. So we'll have to see what happens.
So
Hard to
Miss,
know.
so Miss Sandy, what's on tap for today?
Well, I think we're going to talk about creativity and how that all works, because it's kind of interesting. We touched on it yesterday, but it's, as I was saying to Chris before you came on, Carla, if you have a good culture in your organization, then people will be creative. If you don't, they won't, because A, they're not encouraged to, and nobody will listen to them anyway. So, why would you bother? But if you have a good culture, then people are more efficient, they're more productive, and way more creative. And when you're leading them appropriately and you listen to things that they offer, it's a win-win, otherwise you miss opportunities. And so that's why it's so important to have a good culture so that your people are happy. And that way they are healthier and more productive. And it's a win-win for everybody. They feel better, they have more self-esteem and more confidence. And the company gains because they're all working better. And that means that your company is going to be more productive and you're going to make good money. And again, when they're happy and proud of where they work, you don't need to worry about customer service, because they're going to want people to be happy and to keep coming back because they're proud of where they work. And so you don't need to worry about customer service either. I mean, it's a full picture of what to do. And if the leadership commits to creating and maintaining a good internal culture, you're going to have a business that's going to be successful and long lasting, because you're going to have very little turnover, and you're going to have happy customers, and you're going to have happy employees who are going to work very hard. And that's a win-win for everybody.
Well, it's all intertwined. And when they feel like they're being heard, they're going to be more creative and more apt to want to offer solutions to problems and use their creativity.
For sure. If they don't feel listened to and they don't get acknowledged for their contributions, then you're shooting yourself in the foot, frankly.
Yeah. And they just show up, do what they're supposed to do, and they leave. They don't
Go home. Yeah. That's sort of a terrible way to work. I mean, you and I have talked about that before. I mean, it's not.
Wouldn't get me out of bed in the morning.
Well, that's right. I mean, if you're not going to something that you enjoy and you don't have fun at work, I mean, what's wrong with having fun at work, even if you're working hard? But at least you have something to look forward to that's kind of cool. Like, we look forward to these conversations because they're always engaging, interesting, informative, and fun. So, it's just a matter of what are you doing? And I told you, until that horrible dentist bought the practice, we always had fun in the office. I mean, we did. And that's why the patients liked coming, because it was a relaxed atmosphere, which in most dental offices it isn't. And it made them less anxious. And we all had fun because we all supported one another and worked together in a good way. And, it was a good culture and a good atmosphere until those two assholes bought the practice. And then it was a mess. It was really a mess. And I told you, they started losing patients. So they wanted to sue my brother. They went to the lawyer, and the lawyer told them they had no case. He said, you can't make people stay here if they're not happy with you. So obviously you're doing something that is pushing them away, which of course he was, because he was so nasty.
Yeah.
So, it's just a matter of, the lawyer said to them, you have no case, because Dave wasn't phoning patients and inviting them to come to where he was practicing. They would phone the office and want to know where Dave was so they could go back to him.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of what kind of atmosphere are you creating in your business. And, I work from home, so it doesn't really matter. And I don't work with anybody, so it's not really a big deal. But when you have employees and you have, a location, you want your employees to feel good, and you want any customers or clients who come in to feel good. And of course, if it's poisonous, it's We've discussed this before. It's palpable in the atmosphere when you walk in. And you're kind of in there and you're going, oh, this isn't a very comfortable place to be. Let me out of here. And they don't want to come back. Whereas if they come in and everybody's smiling and happy and, hi, Christy, it's really nice to see you. We haven't seen you for a while. I'm so glad you've come back. I mean, how's a person going to feel when that happens? And again, when your front desk person knows a lot of the people, just like, in the office, the receptionist knew everybody. So as soon as you came in, they knew you by name. And of course, we knew who we were going out to the waiting room to get. So again, we would also greet the patient by name.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ball game.
They don't want to be a number.
No, they're a person and they have a name. And why wouldn't you call them by their name? I mean, it just, to me, it never made any sense. And of course, this other guy never paid attention to names either. So, he was all about him and his nastiness. So it's just a matter of, what are we trying to accomplish and what are we trying to do? And if we really want to have a successful, long-lasting business, we have to create and maintain a good internal culture so that our people will be happy and will be engaged and will be creative, because they will. They will be creative. They will offer suggestions for doing different things that will be beneficial to the organization. Because if you don't create that, you miss opportunities, especially if you're not listening very well. So it's so important to give them the opportunity to be creative. And, when they're on the front lines doing things, often they will come up with something that might be a little bit different. Or maybe they'll even have an idea for a new service or a new product that will also benefit the organization. Why would you not want to listen? I mean,
exactly. So here we have a video that comes from a great person that has sparked this great engaging conversation today. Her name is Catherine Courage. You can look it up on YouTube. It's about igniting creativity to transform corporate culture, and it's from TEDx Kyoto in 2012. But what we'll do is we'll run it for about 6 minutes. Because we're going into the environment piece today, and that's what we'll be touching on. So here is Catherine Courage from TEDx from 2012.
If I was to ask you, what do CEOs view as the most crucial factor for business success, what would you say? Some of you might think business rigor, perhaps vision, maybe even manager discipline. But you'd be mistaken. According to a study by IBM, the number one factor identified for business success, believe it or not, is creativity. But we have a problem. These leaders say that creativity is core to business success. However, they're unknowingly choking it out of the business environment. So how do we bridge this gap? As a design leader in Silicon Valley for a dozen years, I've been spending some time thinking about this problem. And I believe we have a fundamental misunderstanding of creativity. We need to start by rejecting the notion that creativity belongs to a select few, that it's owned by the creative right brain thinkers, the painters, the playwrights, the poets, and that it's unavailable to the more logical left brain thinkers, the mathematicians, computer scientists, engineers. I'm here to tell you today, we all have the capacity for creative thinking. In fact, creativity is a birthright available to all, but used by few. Once we come to accept and acknowledge the fact that we can all be creative thinkers, we can focus on its development. So how do we ignite creativity? The answer is in our past. Picasso once said, every child is an artist. The problem is staying an artist when you grow up. I'd like to invite you all to take a moment, step back to your childhood. We questioned the world. We were curious about everything, and we were naturally observant. Did you know the average preschooler asked 100 questions a day? we can draw a lot of inspiration about creativity from our childhood. It starts by opening our minds, looking for new possibilities, and challenging the status quo. Just like parents foster creativity in their children, we must do the same in the workplace. So, how do we change? I'd like to share three strategies I believe everyone in this room can use to bring creativity to their workplace. Let's start by talking about environments. Environments are the foundation for creative thinking. If you look at most business environments today, this is what they look like. Not very inspiring. Boring, bland rows of cubes, equally boring and uninspiring meeting rooms. And the tools that we use, generic computers, line notebooks, black pens. One of the core aspects of creative thinking is ideation, exploring a variety of ideas, collaborating. And these kinds of spaces and tools just don't foster that behavior. But think back to your childhood. These are the kinds of spaces you worked and played in. A variety of different locations for different kinds of activities. Bold, bright, colorful, energetic. And the tools we used? Blank paper, colored pencils, pens, paint, markers. Everything we needed for imagination and creation. The good news? Companies are catching on and they're recognizing the importance of the environment. Microsoft, Google, Lego, just to name a few, are investing in spaces like these. They're getting the importance of creating a variety of spaces for employees. At Citrix, where I work, we opened a design collaboration space inspired by the design school at Stanford. It's 2,000 square feet of wide open space filled with whiteboards, tables, stools. It's easily configurable, so you can create any kind of unique working environment. Creative supplies are everywhere at your fingertips. The room is available at all times, designed for spontaneous collaboration. A radical change happened when we opened this space. It was pretty incredible. Instead of preaching about the merits of collaboration and ideation, we started seeing it happen real time every day. And even better, employees are telling us they love this new way of working, and they are coming up with better ideas that are impacting our products. Environment is the foundation for creative thinking. A second way that we can all ignite creativity in our workplace is through experiments.
So, isn't that amazing?
Well, when you think about it, Chris, it actually makes sense. Because if you're in a situation where there is color and there is opportunity to experiment and to collaborate with, colorful whatever, it's more fun. And I think it does inspire more creativity and spark more creativity, because when everything is just dull black and white, it's not too interesting. But, if you can color things with colored crayons or pens or pencils or whatever, and even work on colored paper, it's a bit more exciting and interesting. And so, it does sort of take you back to your childhood, but it's a matter of having fun with things. And that's what we used to do as kids. We always had fun. And I think, again, that's really important for adults, even in the business world. And I think that, that's been stymied. A lot of it's just been taken away because, they think, well, you should just sit at your desk and be on your computer and work. Well, yeah, whatever. There are lots of things that we can do on the computer, and it's advantageous to have one for a whole host of reasons. But sometimes just drawing something on a plain piece of paper and sharing it with others and getting others to add to it and so on and so forth can actually be even better. I mean, there are drawing tools on some computers, and you can get programs that actually allow you to do that too. And that's probably good too. But I think that, the actual drawing where you're actually doing it is probably a little bit better. But it's just a matter of, again, it's the collaboration that makes it fun, when you're doing it with other people. And that's when even more ideas can get sparked. So it's just a matter of creating the environment that is going to allow people to be more creative. And when you have an environment that allows that, because people feel valued and they feel appreciated and they feel like they want to contribute to the company, they will. They absolutely will, because people always have ideas, but they don't necessarily share them if they don't think anybody's going to listen. So if you have a culture of listening and a history of listening and acknowledging and giving credit to the people who come up with ideas, then you're going to have lots of ideas. And, some of them might be pretty good. So it's just a matter of inviting it.
Well, I was thinking about creativity today. There was something that came to mind. It was this morning, and it was along the lines of creativity, it was a post that I saw about how they had like this big oval rock, and they did masking tape to make like a heart, and then they painted the border, and then they did, the sponge blending and all these other different creative things. And then they took the paint off, and then they were filling in the heart with like a sunset theme. And it took me back to what she was saying about creativity, that we are so creative as kids. We have an imagination. We use our minds. We role play. We play dolls. We play house. When I was growing up, we would play school, and we would literally make up tests. We would do all that. We would paint, we would draw, we would do finger painting, you name it. We would do all these different things. And as we got into the school system and later on in life, we just completely lost our creativity. How many times have you seen, who's the guy, Bob, the painter that's on PBS, that he's got like a big head of hair, big round head of hair. I can't think of his name, but he was popular back in like the 60s and 70s, I think. And he would just take a paintbrush. He did a painting class on public broadcasting. And I think about this because they have it on every week when I go to yoga at the brewery. But he'll just like take a paintbrush and just, he's got the technique. And next thing you know, he's got this whole landscape on a canvas. And I'm sitting there as an adult going, there's no way I could do that. And then I'm thinking to myself, when I was thinking today, that there's no way I could do something creative like this person was doing in this video. I thought of that too. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Why can't I? As adults, we turn off our creativity. We don't do Halloween costumes because we don't think that we're good enough for it. We're not creative. Or we're in the workplace and we think we might have a solution, but we go, oh, well, it's not that great and nobody's going to listen anyway. So we don't use our creativity to solve problems. We don't use our creativity to have fun because we don't think that we're good enough. Whereas we need to go back to where we were as a kid and use our creativity for life. We don't do that anymore.
And I completely agree with you, Carla. And see, for me, and I'm going to be brutally honest, I have not lost the kid in me. I have not. And the reason why,
doesn't surprise me.
The reason why is because, number one, it keeps you in a state of being younger. You're young at heart. You can do, it's like, when we were kids, you said, I could conquer the world. I can be Superman. I can go out and just take on the world. And when you got your hands dirty in the mud or in the Play-Doh, or you're building those Legos, you just literally did anything that your heart desires. And when we let that go, whether it to be as young adults or going into the workplace, wherever that kind of drop off fell, it really has got us on a different trajectory from where we could truly be. And see, I am not in any way, shape, or form going to let creativity not be a focal point here at Bringing Humanity Together. I embrace it, and I want it to be shared with every single person who wants it to be in their lives. Because, see, if you can foster that environment, and I get right back to what I truly believe in, is if you can create better environments, you create better results. But more importantly, if you meet people where they are and understand their creative nature, understand where they want to go and how they want to embrace it, and finding maybe even a hidden gift that they don't even know they have, you can be that person that can say, hey, I find this in Carla. I found this in Sandy. I find this in Graham or Brian or Christine. And I just truly believe that that's what's there for us. We got some comments coming in, and I believe this is from either Brian or Graham. It says, people spend a vast majority of their lives practicing how not to be creative, hence they are educated. And I enjoy being in a creative environment, even though I don't have too many great ideas. I believe those are going to be both Brianisms, but I am going to check because I think that would probably come from Brian, but I'm going to be sure. No, actually, the first one is actually from Graham. No. I take that back. It's the other way around. Brian said the first comment, and then Graham sent the second one. And then Brian just said, Graham, ever explored the root of creativity? Ooh.
Well, I think that we tell ourselves that we're not creative because we don't believe in ourselves and we put ourselves down.
Sandy, your thoughts?
I think that everybody's creative, but I think Carla's right. It gets squashed. It gets removed. It gets discouraged, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when you are in an environment that kind of encourages it, because people are listening, they actually are listening, and because your environment is supportive and encouraging, then there's a greater chance that people will revert to their creative selves and will start creating either ways to do things more efficiently, or even come up with ideas for new services or new products for the organization. And again, it's a win-win for everybody. It's just a matter of encouraging people to use their creative brain, because we all have it and we all used it when we were kids. But then, like Brian said, or Graham, one of them, never got educated. And once they put you in a schoolroom and they take away all those opportunities to be creative, because, the teacher's telling you have to do this and you have to do that, you have to do it this way. And then, well, I'm sorry. It's really sad that they take it away.
I know a lot of people that are educated that have absolutely no common sense and problem solving ability.
That's true, Carla. It's absolutely true. No, it is true.
It is true. It is true. And that comes, it's almost like creativity flows into your ability to solve problems, because you have to be creative. If you're running your own business and you want to be stand above other people that are doing the same thing you're doing, you have to be creative in your marketing. You have to be creative on social media. You have to do it in a way that nobody else is doing it. And not tell yourself, well, I can't do it that way because no one else is doing it that way. Well, hey, do it, because other people see that you're doing something different and you'll stand out.
Well, that's what I did with my business, Carla.
Yeah.
Most trainers do not customize sessions to suit their clients. They don't do what I do. And so they're not as effective
Mhm.
with their clients. I mean, I get great feedback because they're getting very specifically what they were looking for. And again, I encourage them to choose the elements they think are going to be most beneficial to their people before I put together the program. And then, we have a discussion about it. And then I make the program and create their syllabus. But I listen very carefully to what they are looking for. What is their problem? Because, if someone comes to you, Carlin, they want a stress management workshop. Well, I want to find out what's causing their stress.
Absolutely.
Because I want to make sure that we're going to address those issues so that they will have appropriate strategies to deal with it. Just giving a generic stress management workshop isn't probably going to address their issues. I mean, I could do that in dentistry.
If you do a workshop on workplace stress and their stress is coming from outside of work and affecting their work, you're not doing them any good.
No, you're not offering them. I mean, I could do the workshops in dentistry because having practiced for 40 years, I knew what the stressors were.
Yeah.
But I would still talk to the office to see if there was something else they were dealing with. Because a lot of times, of course, you're dealing with difficult people. People are stressed out and anxious when they come to the dentist. So it's often very difficult to deal with them. And of course, all that stress comes out on you. And, you end up working in an environment that's full of stress.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of having good strategies to deflect it. So,
I remember when I was in the office and we were talking about, stress and whatnot. One of the big stressors that was just totally oblivious to the physician we were working with was the fact that he was always showing up late. So when his schedule ran late, that made us run late. That made us miss lunch, and that made the patients upset. And it was just a snowball effect. And he was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that." And you're like, "Okay, but it was stressful for the practice."
Of course.
And you wouldn't necessarily present that to a company if that wasn't an issue that they were having.
Exactly, because you wouldn't know. That's why you have to have those discussions, because you want to find out very specifically what they're looking for, because a topic is so broad. I mean, they're all very broad, but everybody's issues are different, whether it's an individual or it's an organization. They have different issues, and we need to discover what they are so that we can make sure that we present elements that will address those specific needs.
Mm-hmm.
If we can do that, we're going to have happy clients.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I get lots of repeat business. I even have sometimes clients that refer other clients to me because they were so happy with what I did for them.
That's what you need.
Well, yeah, but it's interesting because I know a lot of trainers, and I don't know anybody else who does what I do.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I told you I subcontract to a company in Toronto. Haven't had any work from them lately because, of course, there aren't live workshops. But almost every time I did a workshop for one of their clients, the HR manager would come to me at the end and say, "That wasn't what we expected."
I know.
So, and I mean, I'm not supposed to be taking business away from this other company. So I would tell them, well, I think you should contact LifeWorks and see if they'll, do something for you. I knew darn well they wouldn't, but I have to say that.
Yeah.
And I said, and if they won't, here's my card, give me a shout, and you and I will sit down and we'll figure out what you need. And then I will create a program for you.
Yeah.
Because again, they had the person who was putting together their programs, the content was very good. But again, if it doesn't address the specific issues of the client, doesn't matter how good it is, and how whatever.
Yeah, that would be like me going in and talking to somebody about weight loss that really wants workout performance.
Fair enough. Yeah.
You just don't do that.
No.
You got to figure out what their needs are.
Well, that's why you got to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pay attention and find out what they are looking for. And as I've told you many times, usually my portal of entry is HR, because they're usually the ones who are looking to bring in training. I mean, HR people could probably do the training, but they don't have the time. They're so busy. That's why I call them firefighters. They have so much on their plate. Mm-hmm. So that's why they usually bring in an outside facilitator. But I always, always, always have an in-depth conversation with them, because I do want to find out what they are specifically looking for. And, once we have that conversation, then I say to them, okay, I'm going to send you a lot of documentation with different elements, and you choose the ones you think are going to be most beneficial to your people. And then we will speak again. And once we've decided on the pieces that we think are going to be best, then I will create the PowerPoint and I will send you a fully documented syllabus so that your attendees do not need to take notes, so that they're going to be actively involved in their learning experience. Because I told you, I introduce games,
You get creative.
yeah, exactly. It's a matter of, I want them to have fun, but I also want them to see why they are learning these new strategies and approaches and skills. And that's the reason why I get HR to give me typical scenarios that they've struggled with, because in the end, adults learn when they see it. And if they see that these new strategies and approaches are going to be beneficial to them in situations where they have struggled before, they are going to be far more likely to use these new techniques. And that's the reason why, because I always tell them I could make something up, but it's not going to resonate the way a situation that they have experienced will resonate. And that's why I've also told you, people come up to me, how did you know that? So, well, because it's funny, Chris, but the thing is that when they see why they have learned this stuff and that it will help them get better results, they are going to be far more likely to use it. And that's why I like to have the scenarios that, exactly, create better environment and get better results. It's just a matter of being on the same page with these people. And it really is important to be on the same page. And that's why I always have, sometimes I actually go to their office and sit down with them. Sometimes
when you have great topics like that tailor to their needs, they're going to come back and ask for more topics.
Yeah, exactly. Because I have a lot of information on all the topics that I teach. I have huge files on all of them. And I just send them a whole bunch of elements. Pick ones that you think are going to be most beneficial. Mm-hmm. Especially after we've had the discussion, I will send them things that I think are going to be good. But, I want them to pick. And then, we put together the programs. Because again, I want to make sure that they're getting what they need. Mm-hmm. That's the key. We got to be providing them with what they actually need, what they are actually looking for, and asking for, a workshop on communication. Well, I'm sorry, that's way too vague.
Yeah. So we got some more comments that we got to get back into here. This is from Graham. Possibly, Carla, there may be a lack of self-belief. And yes, Sandy, there are environments where creativity isn't encouraged. That's from Graham.
Yeah.
And then,
well, I do believe it's not a possible. There's a definite lack of self-belief.
Yeah.
That people have.
And then Graham replied back to Brian, because this is what Brian said. Ever explored the root of creativity? And then Graham said, not sure, Brian, probably not how I would explore the root of creativity. And then Brian responded saying, suppose being creative has nothing to do with the physical environment.
Well, it doesn't. If the environment invites it because it has, things that allow you to be more creative, then it's helpful. But if
well, this is what I'm going to put forth today. Brian, I know hopefully you can be available. I would like for you to expand on that, sir, because you are bringing great value to our conversation. So we would definitely like to hear from you when you say about exploring the root of creativity. And suppose being creative, like I said, has nothing to do with that physical environment. So, Brian, if you can jump on for a quick second, that would be great. We would love to hear your point of view on that. How can we get to the root of creativity? Because everything has to start somewhere. It does. It has to. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that if you're with an organization that like, I'm thinking of it in two different realms. I think about people that decorate their cubicle, and there's some organizations that won't even let you do that. To me, that brings out a little bit of your personality, and allows you to set up a friendly environment in your cubicle, so to speak. And then, if you like where you're working, it's like decorating your desk. You start your own business, you get a new desk and you get a new pen holder, you put a plant on your desk, you got a coaster for your water, you just make it a friendly environment, and that's going to help you be more productive. But then if there's organizations that are really not fostering people to use their creativity and problem solving and just saying, hey, we're going to do XYZ, that's it, no discussion about it, no whatsoever, then you're really squelching people's ability to solve problems and be creative to solve those problems.
So let me ask you this then, Carla. Can problem solving be fostered from both sides of the table? Can leadership, and I call them partners, not necessarily employees anymore, because to me, employee is a dead word to me, because it really doesn't foster that investment that really truly should be there. But can we get to that place that both sides can come together at that very table and spark that creativity together?
I believe that we can, and that's where hope comes into play, because if you just flat out say, no, it can't happen, it's not going to happen. And it's dead in the water. But we need to come together.
If you say it's not going to happen and you decide in your mind that it's not going to happen or it can't happen, then it won't. So it's a matter of what is your mindset? And we've talked about this before. The only thing we have total control over is our attitude. Mm-hmm. So if we come to the table with an attitude that we're going to move something forward, or we're going to work on something and make it more interesting or more creative or whatever, then you will.
Or you can, or you can't. You asked me, can we bring both sides of the table together? Well, that's exactly what we're wanting to do here.
Yep.
If we believe that we can do it, we're going to make it happen. If we're sitting here going, no, we're not, no, you can't make that happen, I'm like sitting there thinking, well, why in the heck are we doing all that? It's how you bring it to the table. It's like when my husband plays golf, and he thinks he's not going to play good. Guess what? He's not going to play good. And I've told him that, if you say, I can play it, I can't hit the ball, I can't figure out why I'm not hitting the ball, then you will figure it out. If you say you can't, then you're not going to.
Well, this comes from Brian. Brian just said this. Suppose creativity isn't thinking outside the proverbial box, but working within that proverbial box. What do you think about that? And then we'll go on to Graham's comment next.
Well, I think you can still be creative within the proverbial box. It's just a matter of stepping, just maybe a little bit farther away from the table for a few minutes and just thinking about what it is you might like to do, because you don't want to discourage people from getting involved with opportunities for change or opportunities to do things more efficiently or whatever. And again, the people that are on the front lines and are doing things are the ones that are more likely to come up with something, rather than the manager or the leader who isn't actually, hands-on doing the stuff that some of their partners are doing for them. And so if you discourage them from coming up with better ways to do things, or even, some new things that we could do, then what are you doing? You're shooting yourself in the foot, and you're going to miss opportunities. So I don't know why you would have that mindset to do that to people. I think that it's very important that you encourage them to come up with some different ideas and to be creative and to listen to them. Because if you do that, then they're going to be more likely to come up with stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't care if it's inside the box or outside the box. If you've got a company that's not listening to you, it doesn't matter, because nobody's going to contribute.
No, it doesn't.
You don't listen to them, they're going to stop talking to you.
That's correct. And then you miss opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important to encourage them to think outside the box. I know Brian says maybe not, but I think it is important to encourage them to come up with some different ways of doing things. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And then you look at it and say, okay, if we do it this way, how's that going to flow? And maybe it's not the right answer, but part of it might be right. And then that leads to other people being creative. And then you go, well, what if we did that part and added this to it, and things too many times in organizations, they think through a process, but nobody's really tried it out. And then when you actually go and try it out and you follow the steps like they want you to do, you hit all these problems along the way, and they're like, oh, we never thought about that. Well, you never ask anybody's opinion either.
Exactly.
You just
Well,
decided
this is what
what you were going to do.
Well, this is what Graham just said. Someone with lots of self-belief may not display creativity based on the environment rather than the lack of self-belief. And he just replied back to Brian saying, Brian, I guess creativity doesn't have to be about the physical environment, but maybe people allow it to affect them. I am sure that I have in the past. Interesting comment. Thank you. So now we're going into the realm of self-beliefs. What's your take on that, ladies?
Well, self-belief is important if you're going to step up to the plate and offer a solution or decide that you're going to be creative, putting together outfits, decorating your house. You got to have that self-belief that you can do it or learn how to do it. And if you don't think that your idea, for example, is good enough, you're not going to step up to the plate and offer a solution to anybody.
Well, on top of which, Carla, if you don't think that the leadership is going to listen to you, then you wouldn't step up to the plate either.
Right.
Then
Right.
you're just
I
gonna
agree
get
with that.
shot
A
down.
lot of people don't feel like what they have to say is important enough, so they don't say anything.
Exactly.
They have that self-limiting belief that they can't do something, or their idea isn't good enough. Well, like they'll start off. Well, I think I have an idea. It probably won't work, but this is what I was thinking. That is so self-limiting and so deprecating. They're putting themselves down before they actually put the solution out there that might work.
Well, hello, Brian. How you doing today, sir?
I am well. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. What's your thoughts so far?
No, it's an interesting topic. Creativity is fascinating. It's bandied about a lot, and it's been a buzzword, especially innovation, over the last 10 years, with people trying to be more innovative than the next. But that's been going on for generations and centuries of innovation and constant moving forward of stuff. So it's an interesting conversation to have.
But I like what you said yesterday on the call, and it was a unique thing that you said. It was almost like creativity for dummies. Do you remember what you said about that?
No, sorry.
Do you, Chris?
No, it was one. It was some kind of phrase that he used for, because it was like I forget what it was termed, but he's like, it's basically when ideation or
Ideation? Oh, design thinking?
Yeah.
But design thinking is just a term that was bred out of Stanford University. It's in their school of design. It's not even in like their business school. And it's a unique kind of warehouse space that allows them to kind of create and ideate and come up with all different products and services. And Stanford has kind of gotten credit for this, entrepreneurial, forward-thinking, innovation type of place. And a lot of other schools and businesses have tried to replicate their kind of model, if you will, of what they've done. But design thinking, which I shared with you of what it is just, that was just a graphical representation of a process that is basically engineering or business 101, problem solving 101. It's really great for people in the academic space who don't actually work outside of academics. But as I told you, it was stuff that I learned in high school, of how you would look at things and ideate, prototype, and go back and forth over stuff. Software developers, all those kinds of people have been doing this stuff for years. So it's not anything revolutionary. But it's become kind of a fanciful thing to talk about in the academic community because most academics lack creativity. And, you know, they're very stuck in how they go about things. That it's new to a lot of them because they've never been in, you know, on a factory floor or, you know, in a place where they create software or do anything that, you know, requires something outside of the classroom.
So how would you go about, and that's something we might even touch on in tomorrow, hopefully we probably dive in even deeper, but it got me thinking, how can we get to the root of creativity? How will we get there, Brian?
Well, look, each person is different. We spark differently. Creativity comes from a space of nothing. And consider this as a possibility. Creativity is an exploration to what's possible. So we talk a lot about change, but change is more, better, different of what came before. And most people approach creativity the same way. They look at what happened before, what a company did before, what the last product iteration was, and they manipulate it, change it, and release a new version of it. Hence, you see, you know, iPhone 12 to iPhone 13, it's incremental changes of not much, right? You ever wonder why there isn't much huge change, right? But creativity isn't past-based in any way, shape, or form, right? It's a sense of nothingness. Like, if I told you to pick up a pencil right now, you would go ahead and pick up a pencil. You wouldn't think about picking up a pencil. You would just go about doing it. And what happens is that it resides in the space of nothing where you're not bound by what's right, what's wrong, what someone else is thinking, what you're thinking, what you should, what you shouldn't do. All of those things get in the way of creativity, which is why I say, you know, you get the notion from the late professor and writer Robinson, I forget his first name right now, who wrote several books on creativity, Sir Ken Robinson. And one of the things is that, yeah, we become educated. We start becoming the products of other people's decisions of what you should or shouldn't do, what you can and can't do, right? Here's the answer to the problem. It's in the back of the book. Don't look at it, right? I mean, that's basically how we go about it. We're convergent thinkers as we get older, as opposed to divergent thinkers. And the reason I gave you that option of working within the proverbial box, and I'm not saying you shouldn't think outside of it, my point is most people are trained to look for the answer. The problem is most of the problems that we're trying to solve on a global business or otherwise level don't have an answer. And if they do, it's mysterious and there might be 17 of them. So one of the best ways I ever heard it described was from a professor, Tina Seelig, who actually teaches at the D School. And she said most people consider themselves puzzle makers or putting puzzles together. Well, what happens if you never find that last piece of the puzzle? She said the problem is that not everyone can find the last piece, and maybe there isn't a piece to it. She said she likes using the term a quilt maker, where people find scraps and put them together and make something. So there are two types of people typically, right? There are typically people who think they're creative and people who don't think they're creative. And the people who don't think they're creative walk outside in Florida in summer and say it's 92 degrees outside, it shouldn't be this way, walk back inside and hang out in the air conditioning. People who are creative look at the world differently than most of us. And they walk outside, they say it's 92 degrees outside, and they ask one question. Okay, now what's possible? So they take the current situation and they ask a question very simply. What's possible now? Okay? I mean, I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day talking about mandates and vaccines and what the world's happening. And I said, okay, yeah, I mean, I get all that. I don't agree with what most things are going on. Fine. But the point is they are. So the question is, okay, now what? what can you create in the current scheme of what the situation is? What is the framework? So can you work within the proverbial box, whatever that looks like? Can you be creative now? And most people say no because they blame the external stuff on the problems why they can't be successful. My circumstances stink. The situation stinks. My boss is mean to me. He yelled at me. She yelled at me. Whatever, right? And I'm just, okay, well, then you're not a very creative person. And most people aren't, because most people look outside and say, that's the reason I'm not successful. So, yeah, creativity comes from a sense of nothingness.
So let me ask you this too, Brian, because I'm correlating it with this because I've learned this from you too as well, from that space of nothingness. Then can creativity and transformation come from the very same space?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, it's a generative language orientation, if you will. Yeah, it's transformative. It's creating something anew from nothing, right? Another way that you could potentially call and describe creativity, suppose creativity is constant learning, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be products and services. I mean, people look at the cool widget that comes out and says, oh, that's really innovative, even though, you know, it's been around for 20 years. And it might be, and I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying touch screens and automation, all this stuff isn't cool. I mean, it's really inventive stuff. My point is, it could be more than just that, right? I mean, that's an aspect of what creativity is. And I think deep down, and what really happens is we get so caught up with doing what's right. I don't know what's right. I mean, Carla plays golf, and I can almost assure you, and don't take this wrong, but I would almost assure you that most people you play with or you see playing golf, maybe even yourself, not very creative on the golf course. Right? Because most people are taught how to play golf a certain way. You hit this club, this shot, this way, with this technique from this distance.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, you could teach a fifth grader how to do that, but that's boring. See, most people, Chris, what happens is most people conflate the two things. They conflate creativity and consistency. They think they're the same thing. See, people want consistency, right? Or that's what they claim, but they actually want creativity, right? And I could tell routine. Routine's boring, right? I mean, people want consistency in golf, Carla, and I've heard it described this way. Consistency to golf is golfing hell.
It's what?
Golfing hell. Doing the same thing over and over again isn't very interesting.
Well, I told my husband, I said, you know, if you had a perfect score every time you went out and played, it'd be boring.
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on what your intention is. I mean, my score doesn't fluctuate all that much when I play. I played the other day. I shot about the same score as I did a couple days before that. Mm-hmm. But everything's always different. See, suppose it wasn't routine. Suppose it was a creation now, and then another creation now in this moment, in this moment, in this moment, that it no longer has to be bound by what came before.
Well, every time you play golf, even if you play on the same golf course, it's always different.
Right, but everybody tries to make it routine. They stand behind the ball the same way, they line up the same way, they work up the same way, they take the same amount of practice swings each time, they look at the hole the same amount of time. Like, it becomes robotic, boring, and predictable, which is the antithesis of creativity. It's weird. We practice not being creative and then say, go be creative.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend of mine that's learning how to play golf, and she couldn't figure out why she was hitting over the top of the ball. And I said, well, you need to play around and move it around in your stance and see what works for you, you know? Well, I can't do that. I was told to hit it this way. I said, but it ain't working for you, you know? Right. And she looked at me like, oh, you're right, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think Sandy or someone mentioned the talk, like being like a child. I mean, kids don't live in that world. Kids don't live in right and wrong until we tell them what right and wrong is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start forming our decisions as their own. But suppose creativity didn't have to work that way. Just, as I told you, I taught creativity for many years at the graduate and undergraduate level. And it was fascinating to watch the students struggle with creativity, because their first question is, well, what's creativity? And I would shrug my shoulders. I have no idea. You tell me, right? Or, what's value? I don't know. So they Google what it means. It's, kind of a...
Man, I bet when you were teaching those kids, their minds were just, it reminds me of the emoji of the blown mind, where the confetti coming out of the head. That must have been your students. They probably were walking out going, I've never thought so hard in my damn life.
They learn how to think for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard it explained that thinking isn't natural for people. Having thoughts is. But actually generating thoughts about something means that you have to give value and or consideration to something in order to think about it. But that's not normal for people. People don't do that's generative. You have to create that. Having random extraneous thoughts is natural, right? But yeah, it's a fascinating topic, creativity. I mean, we talk about innovation, you see Apple and all these cool companies. It's, okay.
So
it's like being in school and they say, answer these discussion questions, and people are looking for, okay, so what's the right answer that I'm supposed to put in this box to get a grade, as opposed to just not have, there's no wrong answer that you could agree or not agree or have your own point of view. People don't know how to do that.
Yeah, because we're trained to look for what the right answer is. We're educated.
Yep. I mean, you take boards for like nursing. They teach you look to figure out what it is that they're asking you about the question and what answers are wrong, and narrow it down to the right answers.
Right. I'm not saying there isn't a right or wrong answer to certain things. And obviously there's a process to certain stuff that we have in the world. But very often the solutions just aren't that cut and dry. It's not black and white as, you say, oh, that's the right answer, that's the wrong answer. Okay. You might have 15 answers, and all of which have validity depending on the circumstances. So it makes it challenging to do it. But yeah, I think we're just predisposed to something that limits what we could be potentially doing, Chris.
So let's go around the room for final thoughts and call to action and everything. And let's start with you, Miss Carla. Then we'll go to Miss Sandy, and then we'll go to Brian. And I will be the last one to go. So, what's your final thoughts, and what will be your call to action?
My final thoughts. It's a tough topic to come up with a call to action. Would be to actually go back and examine what life was like when you were as a kid, as they were talking about in the video about how we were creative as kids and what led us to be not creative as adults, and go back and try to tap into that creativity, whether it be in the workplace, in your family life, whatever, and don't shortchange yourself on being creative.
Miss Sandy?
You're muted, Sandy.
I know, I'm gone. Okay. I think that it's very important, Chris, that people be encouraged, like Brian said, to think. And I think that, a lot of times we're just, it's tunnel vision. And you've got to open your mind and have an open mind when you're dealing with things, not a closed mind. And just because you've always done something a certain way doesn't mean that there aren't other ways to do it. And so you might want to step back and, and experiment and try different ways of doing things, because you might find that there are better ways or more interesting ways or more fun ways of doing something, and maybe we'll even get a better result. It's just a matter of don't cut yourself off. Don't think that, this is the end all and the be all. And I think I agree with Brian on this, that I think that's what education has done. It put blinders on you. And, this is the way to do it. You got to do it this way. Well, in business, for sure, that's not how it works. And if you run your business that way, you're not going to have a very successful business. And it's not going to be very much fun for anybody who works there. So you've got to give people the opportunity to think outside the box and to come up with different ways of doing things, or even some new ideas on things that we could do, services we could provide, or products we could provide, or whatever. And if you encourage them to do that, and you listen to them, and you applaud their efforts, then I think you're going to have a whole different ball game in terms of what's going on in your business and how your people feel. So I think it's very, very important to encourage people to get outside their box and start looking at things in different ways, because it's healthier. Also, you get better results. So, I just think that you should give people the chance.
Brian, what say you, sir?
I would challenge people to look at their situation and their circumstances and ask themselves two questions. One, what awareness is missing that is preventing them to look at something, and ask the second question, what's possible now? Right? Here's my situation. Okay, got it. That's what it is. We're here. Now what's possible? And see what shows up.
And I will read out Graham's call to action and what he just previously said about you, because he said this. I've noticed you're consistent with your approach to solutions coming from within, Brian, and not the external sources. And Graham's call to action is this, and you just probably said this, Brian. Call to action is to be consistently creative, whilst probably still being consistently repetitive where appropriate. That's a great way to look at, Graham. I truly believe that. But my call to action will be simply this. Tap into your inner child. Tap into what you knew back when you were as a kid, and recapture that if you allow yourself to do so. Look at things from maybe a different point of view. That if you were that kid, it's almost like we're going back to the future, so to speak, and we see our younger selves. I believe what Brian just said with those two questions, we can ask our younger selves those very questions. Are we willing to ask them? So I'll just say, just tap into your inner child or your creative side of who you are, because the creativity doesn't really stop unless you deem it so. We could be the generators and creators, not only of our life, but where do we take it from here moving forward? And that's how we can move forward, not only in our lives, but also show others that they can do the very same thing. Because once we create things with them too as well, we can also learn too as well from them, because I truly believe we can become better listeners, we become better learners, and then we become better leaders, and maybe even create better leaders, because when we create better environments, we will create better results. And I truly believe in that. So, Brian, Carla, Sandy, Graham, as always, you guys are just providing so much value to this conversation each and every single time that you're on. I'm so thankful and honored that you're a part of bringing humanity together, not only from a community standpoint, but truly a human connective standpoint, because you guys are just inspire me each and every single day to do these live streams with you guys. I'm so thankful and honored. And again, Brian, thank you so much for your great insight today on today's topic, because you are providing value, just like you're hitting home runs every single time. So is Sandy, so is Carla. And I'm just so thankful and honored by that.
Okay, everybody, have a great evening.
It's always great to be here. You guys have a great evening.
See you
All right,
next time.
everyone. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Have a great everyone.
Okay.